There is only one way to make sure that you have the very best melody and chords to match a melody for your track. Mixola gives you that one way with one click. This was not possible or practical before Mixola. So we're going to do a melody. We're going to keep it simple and just use 3 notes. So the possible notes are C, D, and E in the key of C, okay? Which is, that's been real popular the last, 5 to 7.5 years, all right? Especially the second note in the scale, the D, the supertonic, okay? So as a shortcut, we're just going to double click. And that copies that information to every step. So if we click over here, it's the same now in every step in the 32-step sequencer. So the piano sample is sample 21. So we're just going to enter that. And, you can pick any steps, any rhythm, and experiment. If you know a little bit about, beat making or sequence, and, you just think of a little rhythm in your head. So we're going to use these. So that's 1 E and a 2 E and a 3. 1, 2, and 3. Dot, 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 dot. Okay? So any one of those steps can have any of those 3 notes. Okay? So it's not practical on a keyboard, a piano, or a MIDI roll to experiment with every possible variation. There's just too many, okay? So in this case, there's 81 possibilities. So in one click, Mixola is going to create every possible combination of those notes on those steps. And there's 81, okay? So that's going to take a minute. So we'll just let that render. Now, you can use any note you want. I'm just using 3. If you wanted, a melody that had more notes, more possibilities, then you could enter everything from A below C4, below middle C, up to the next octave E. You could have 12 different notes, okay? So it's that quick. That's the power of Mixola. This is every single possible variation with no duplicates. That's it. Your melody is in here somewhere. It might be the first one. You might have to click 10 or 12, or it might be the very last one, 81, okay? The only way to be sure that you get the very best melody is to try every combination. There's no shortcuts in life, okay? So we're just going to start with one, all right? Now, why didn't I just do the whole melody across 2 bars? How come I only did, the first couple beats? Is because the math adds up so quickly that if I went all the way across, even with 3 notes, there could be thousands of different possibilities, and that's really unmanageable. If you wanted to do it, you could do it, but this is just a way to divide and conquer, to just go along and make sure that your melody's great as you go along and working together. Okay, so you're going to piece it together. Now, make no mistake. This is the same exact thing that all the great composers would do, but they would just do it on the keyboard and just grind it out and grind it out for hours, sometimes days. You can search for these interviews where it took people years to make their number one hit, okay? Because they're playing with the melody, redoing it. They didn't have the right chords, they didn't have the right beat, okay? So this distills the process of getting to the very best melody and the very best chords for that melody in the shortest amount of time possible. Even though it seems like a lot of possibilities, it's the fastest way using Mixola to go through all the possible variations. Now you have 100,000 tracks coming out a day. Competition's tough. You need the very best melody, and you need the very best chords to match your melody. It's not a luxury anymore. Competition is fierce, okay? So now, could you, on a keyboard, if you're a good keyboard player, could you get to 45 different variations or even, 20 or 30 pretty quick? Yeah, you could. Depending upon how good you are, and how diligent and persistent you were. You could try out, 20 or 30, and maybe a half an hour, you'd be playing around with it, okay? But that half an hour, it would still be longer, even if you were an accomplished composer, good on a keyboard. That amount of time, still, I could know nothing about music theory and go through all 81 options and just use my ear and pick the best one, the one that I think is best in a shorter amount of time than it would take the greatest composer even to go through half of them. And then that composer, they did not explore every possibility. So believe it or not, someone without any music theory with Mixola could end up with a better melody and better match with the melody in the chords of a great composer, okay? So the art of it is knowing what sounds good, is taste. So Mixola does not do that part for you. You're still the artist in the taste. You have to know what sounds good, okay? It's a tool that amplifies your creativity, okay? So here's the first one, all right? So we're going to render that. Then we'll hear what that sounds like. Turn this up a little. Mediocre. So we go to the second one. Oh, you can double click to eliminate the ones that you don't like, okay? So here's the second one. Nah. Too plain. Get rid of that one. The third one. Oh, I forgot to render. Got ahead of myself. We have to render. That's pretty good. See, that's just the third one. Right there, I might be done. So, you can see the power already. I just tried 3 out of 81, and I like this one. Imagine what else is in here. This is the power of Mixola. This is a tool to amplify your creativity, not to replace it. You have to pick the best melody. This just gets you there faster. Okay?